Hello and welcome to our wonderful panel today. We are excited to bring this from the chamber. I am Tammy Davidson. I'm the EVP of Right Management here in South Florida, and I am also privileged to be the chairperson for the HR Workforce Committee for the Greater Miami Chamber. And part of our work and our mission is to educate and edify human resources and business people here in South Florida. And with that, we have a wonderful panel today on culture, and I will introduce that panel in just a moment. But first off, let's have Diana from CareerSource, our wonderful sponsor, say a few words because they help us make this come to life.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Tammy, for that introduction. My name is Diana Valdivia with CareerSource South Florida. We are your Miami-Dade and Monroe County Workforce Development Agency. We advance state and local government funded programs and training incentives to strengthen our local economy as well as our workforce. We have several programs and training incentives available for our community, for the business community, for opportunities for our individuals in the community looking to advance their career or get a start on their career. We have programs such as paid work experience, on-the-job training, and we are currently in the middle of Apprenticeship Week. So right now it's National Apprenticeship Week. And there's a lot of events and activities going on that represents this very important week for apprentices and apprenticeship programs and the developments thereof. It's basically your earn while you learn a program. And so I'm excited to be here among the business community. And if there are any questions, you want any further information on how CareerSource South Florida can help elevate your business, how elevate yourselves, your professional careers, advance your career path, and land that wonderful opportunity that will basically advance your profession. So please reach out to me. My contact information, I can provide that on the chat. If not, you can definitely reach out to Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, Tammy, and we can definitely get a meeting and see how I can service your business.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Diana.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So today we have some great people with us, and I'm going to start off by my partner in crime here, Aaron Tandy. He is the in-house general counsel for Boucher Brothers, and he's vice chair of this committee, and you will hear from him later on today. He's had over 3 decades of litigation and legal law in employment law. So a wealth of knowledge, and I'm proud to have him as my co-leader here in this wonderful committee. Kristen Cady. Let me tell you about Kristen Cady. She's the manager of learning and development for Florida Power and Light, a subsidiary of NextEra. Did you know that NextEra is the largest investor-owned electric utility in the nation? Her role, she oversees the company's high potential leadership programs, organizational development function, all types of corporate learning and development, and making sure that everyone at NextEra Energy is the best that they can be. Prior to that, she was the organizational effectiveness leader in nuclear. Now, I got to tell you something. A nuclear power plant has to be perfect. So, Kristen, no pressure. You had to be perfect. She received her psychology and sociology degree from the University of Vermont, and she has a master's from Nova Southeastern right here in South Florida. She's an accredited coach and has all types of wonderful assessments. So welcome, Kristen. The second panelist today is Ms. Karina Mesa. She's the Associate Vice President of Human Resources at Royal Caribbean Group. Listen to what she oversees. I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up here. the development and execution HR strategies across these functions: finance, supply chain, people outreach, global security, new build. Those are people that build all the new ships. Global marine operations, IT, digital, legal. They take care of 3,000 employees on her team. She's had a 10-year run there at Royal Caribbean and many more years to come. She is a Miami native and has a master's in human resources from FIU. Go girl, there you go. Pedro, he is a strategic human resource partner with a passion. He is the director of learning and organizational development at AvMed. He oversees the design, development, implementation of people strategies aligned with their mission, values, and priorities. His responsibility includes leadership developments, performance management, employee engagement, talent development, succession planning, learning technologies, all the HR communications. Prior to that, he worked at Carnival Cruise and Citrix. He has a wealth of knowledge, and he has also got his MS degree in human resources. He has professional certifications and is a certified professional coach. Wonderful. Our moderator is Angie Brainerd. Angie works with me here at Right Management, and Right Management is a human resource firm, a talent solutions firm, outplacement, organizational development, coaching, executive assistance. And Angie runs up our talent solution sides and serves as our regional practice lead in some of those areas that I just mentioned. She has a very engaging job with a lot of different people. She's focused on high potential teams, managing organizational change, transitions, talent assessments, employee surveys. She runs a coaching staff. She is the leader of our coaching practice there. I'm going to brag on her a minute. She is innovative. She is smart, okay? And she's all across a lot of our practices, and I'm privileged to be her colleague. She has, prior to joining us, she started very young and was in her career and been through many Fortune 500 companies. But she started at parks operations in Disney World, okay? So many times I have to refer to her and talk to her about the mouse with the Disney Institute and all the things that she's done through her career. She's been in various businesses. She's got a BA in communications from the University of Iowa, my Midwest friend. She is certified in all kinds of professional credentials. She is also getting her coaching certification, ICF. So I'm very proud of Angie as my colleague. And I'm going to turn it over to Angie and these wonderful, wonderful group. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Tammy. It's really great to be here with everyone today. And, you know, as Tammy mentioned, in our practice at Right Management, we work with a number of really great clients here in South Florida and across the state. And one of the themes that's coming up quite often is around organization culture. And so when I was asked to lead this panel and to think about, you know, what will we talk about? It came to mind just immediately because I'm super curious about what is in the plans and in the practice of all of you that are out there listening today. And I thought, what a great opportunity to hear from some of our very best leaders in this space around what does organizational culture mean to them and how does it show up in their daily work. We know this is something important to HR as well. You know, the culture of your organization is really foundational to how your employees experience work, what they think of your organization, how they think about, you know, staying, going somewhere in between. And so when I think about, you know, culture and how it's trending as a topic, you know, it makes me question, you know, why is that? Why now? What's happened in our past that's driven this? What do we see in our future where culture will be an important part of the conversation going forward. So in the spirit of creating a winning work environment in terms of your culture, I'd kind of like to start there. And in our kind of pre-discussions, we got into this topic a little bit. And Pedro, I might pick on you first around this and ask you the question, when you think about how organizations leverage culture to create a winning environment, what comes up for you?
So for me, the first thing that comes up are the values, and building culture is about the people. Interesting here at AvMed, our CARES values are part of the organization's fabric, and by extension informs the culture. Now, when I was thinking about this a little bit more, I thought, well, culture is like the seasoning. If you think about something that you're putting together, it's a seasoning that brings an organization's unique flavor to life. And that flavor is part of the secret sauce when an organization is attracting, retaining, assessing, and even when you're developing talent. The essential ingredients in that secret sauce are the values, the mission, the vision, and also the behavioral competencies, right, that an organization uses to assess at all levels, all different levels. For example, at AvMed, we embarked on an intentional journey to ensure that these ingredients were embedded into our people processes, because that's another thing that's critical. If you build it, that's the what, but then the so what is, what do we do with this? And I think going back and looking at your people processes and being able to figure out, okay, where do this fit in and how do I insert this is really very critical. One way we did that was by creating a competency framework that would help us assess the how, not just the what a person does it, but how they do it. And so looking at culture holistically, and not just one piece of the puzzle, but rather something you can use to connect the dots for individuals at the organization and be, really a secret to winning as a business.
Wow, I love that analogy of bringing flavor, to the organization. And when you speak about the competency framework, what has that done for your culture?
So really for us, it's been a game changer, and it's been a game changer because we have been able to demystify what this is all about. When you look at competency structures out there, they're wonderful, they're very complex or complicated. Our thing was, that's great, but we want to simplify it, and we want to be able to have a kind of instantiate in the organization, a language that everybody can use when they're assessing themselves, and also when the leader is using to assess themselves, assess their team members, and also to coach and develop. And so one of the things we did is when we developed our competency framework, we have the definition of the competency, and then we developed sample behaviors that are aligned to our performance rating scale. So if your competency is, let's say, accountability, and it's like, okay, what does accountability mean? Then what does accountability look like when I'm at meets expectations? What does it look like when I'm at exceeds? What does it look like when I'm at exceptional? And what does it look like when I need development? And so it makes everything a tool that's more user-friendly. It's something that people can actually use for themselves, for their own growth and development. And like I said, leaders can use also for coaching.
And it sounds like it also brings clarity too.
100%.
To the
it really, I'm a big person about connect the dots. I'm like, if you do things to check the box, you need to step back and say, how is that connecting the dots? So to take a framework like that, build it, and just put it out there and make a beautiful poster, that's the what. The so what is, we got to get people to use it. And how do you create things that are simple? And creating something that's simple is difficult because it takes time, yet the output is like, wow, this is awesome. When people look at it and are like, this helps me, that's what we want.
Yeah. Some of the feedback that I get around, what makes a great organization culture has to do with that, sense of connectivity to the organization and understanding, where do I fit? How do I contribute? Those kinds of phrases get thrown back. And so that competency framework, I think, is a great model for that. Kristen, when you and I were speaking about creating a winning work environment, you had a lot to say about the great culture that is there, long-standing culture at Florida Power and Light, NextEra Energy. And so what is winning in terms of your kind of how you think about it in culture?
Well, yeah, thanks, Angie. And first off, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate the invite. The thing that struck me about the title of this was the the winning word. That really resonated with me because, you know, at FPL NextEra, our parent company, there's a strong focus on winning. And winning for us is really a strong customer focus. So we have to win, right? We have a business imperative to keep the lights on, to restore power during hurricanes, to find ways to make electricity more affordable. So, you know, we have to win. And it's not about profit. It's not about at all costs. It's really about the customer. So for us, the river that runs through it in terms of culture is, what does it mean to be us? What makes us so special? What is our story? And so you had mentioned, you know, we're a company that's been around since 1925. We have a long history and a long history of winning. And so being able to tell our story is really important for every employee. What does it mean to be us? What makes us strong? What are our roots? And really, we do a lot of storytelling training, not just about the company, but about ourselves. And so we teach people about how to tell your own story. What are those 5 stories of success that you can lean on? And that creates a sense of optimism for our culture. So, you know, we've been there, we've weathered the storms. We can overcome whatever comes our way in terms of challenges and change.
And literally weathered the storms.
Weathered the storms.
Part of
That's
your
right.
business, right?
That's right.
So I love this idea of creating a story and actually training to that, being intentional about it. So what ways do those stories kind of show up in the everyday, maybe for your leaders? How do they share the story with their people?
It's important to not only share stories of success, you know, what has worked for us, sharing that across the organization, but also of things that didn't go so well. And we can learn from the failures and how do we continuously improve as a company. We tell these stories to each other, but we also bring it into the community as well. There's a huge service component to FPL. And the way we communicate with our families, I mean, we're all sort of connected by the same grid. Right. And so it really transcends to our personal lives as well.
Yeah, there's that word again, connectivity. I'm starting to sense a theme. So it's good, connected culture. So Karina, you have also said to me some things in our pre-conversation that struck me as being very significant in terms of how you work together as an organization. I think you said something like, we work better together. And it's kind of this motto or mantra for, what helps define your culture. So could you say more about that and what that means?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Angie. So we have a very unique environment and culture, given we have 100,000 employees, but the majority of them are on the ships. And our culture is very connected to the ships, to those crew members, to our employees, and just how we work we kind of work how we build our ships. We built an innovation lab here in the Port of Miami so that we can collaboratively and always be together building these ships and building our culture around it. I don't think I shared this fact, and I hope I'm getting it right. At least it was right a few years ago. We built here in that innovation lab the first and the only in North America, kind of like a virtual assessment where we can, with our shipyards, be walking through the ships with them. So we can see exactly what they're doing. And that is very big for us from a culture perspective of we felt it's important to be together and work together. And that's what really encompasses our culture. The pandemic, what we call the incident, really threw a wrench in that, where we all had to go virtual for a period of time. And it was a challenging experience for our leadership and for employees to not really be in this collaborative, fun environment, because we are we sell vacations and our employees are very connected to that as well. We love the product that we have, and that really connects us all. And coming back to the office really allowed us to see, with some resistance, of course, but once you were here and you got back to the magic that what is Royal Caribbean Group and building together, and working together in this innovative setting, it really brought our culture back to life, where all that noise around remote 9 to 5s and just wanting more flexibility, it's real. But when you bring us together in a room and you see the magic that happens here, it really revised our, it brought to life our culture again that we have lost for that short period of time.
That's wonderful to hear. And I hear so many different stories about this. It kind of depends on who you're talking to and what the, you know, organization kind of structure is like, or what the history is like, whether, you know, it works to have remote or hybrid or, you know, some kind of combination of whatever you're doing. And so I'm curious about, you know, when you were going through that transition of, you know, bringing people back to the office and preserving those pieces of your culture that you know are important in terms of creating that excitement. What was happening in terms of the thought around how do we think about our culture and what do we want to preserve here? What are we trying to create?
So, you know, we went through a lot of change coming back to the office. In addition, we had a new CEO. And I think I really praise him and the leadership team for recognizing what is special about our culture. And yes, it's being in the office, but we focused less of coming back to the office, and we renovated it and we tried to make it nice, but we also focused on, we brought our crew back to the ships, and we are just as much crew members as we are office versus ships. So we have to show that united front as well. If they're back in their office, we'll be back in our office. And we heard the noise of we don't want to come back. We had the engagement results. But the interesting thing was that ENPS that we measured of, will you recommend this place is a great place to work, was still high into the 90s. So that told us the culture wasn't going to go down just from coming back to the office. And what really makes us special is that we do the right thing. I can go through countless events, just from hurricanes that we do for our community. The last big one, I think it may have been Irma. We had an empty ship and we got all of our employees, over 1,000 of them, said, do you want to get away from Miami during this terrible hurricane? Get on the ship for free, all expenses paid, and just get your family out. And that is still very much alive. And I think that's what makes our culture so special. And we said the noise will go down around coming back to the office, but let them see what happens here again. And the noise did die down because they started working together. We started doing what was fun again, building our ships. We're going to welcome Icon, the biggest ship in the world, now in January. And guess what? All of our employees get to go on it before anybody else. And that just brought everything back to life. And really the noise around remote I can't tell you that I'm hearing it anymore.
That's amazing. And so what you're saying is you're hiring so we can all get on ships for free?
We are hiring. I don't know if you'll make it onto that one, but we have ships coming out almost every year. And thankfully, we do have a very fun culture where we say, you know what, let's let our employees go on first and try it out. So we're all very excited for that.
I love that. And I love the connection back to values, which goes back to what you were talking about originally, Pedro, in that, you know, culture is values and how you bring the two together. And I'm interested, Pedro, in your work models and what has been your experience with transition or shift. Is that something that's impacting your culture or had influence? Oops, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, you know, so from our culture, you know, we are now hybrid. And so we made the transition to being fully remote during the pandemic and then coming back. So listening to Karina, yeah, we felt a little bit of the pain points, you know, even for those of us who are in a hybrid schedule. But, you know, in our most recent engagement survey, we learned that care, communication, and feedback, you know, are strengths for us. And we're proud of these in addition of the focus on the values. You know, and where one of the challenges / opportunities that I think post a pandemic of this hybrid world of work is how do we find the new ways to build a sustained culture that is complementary to the brick and mortar? So if you are in the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week, or you're fully remote, you know, how do you get everybody to taste a bit of that secret sauce, right? So to Karina's point of, you know, sure, when people walk on the ship, it's like, wow, you connect to the brand in a way that's just unbelievable. how do we do that too? How do we care for that in this new environment so that people feel engaged, feel the sense of connectedness to what the culture is about?
We do have that uphand with our product, I have to
Mhm.
say.
Yeah.
When you get, we actually tell people to always try to get on, even if it's a 3-day, because you could be having a miserable week, month, and when you get on that ship, everybody has something to do with that ship and running it. So you really see your work come to life. So it's a blessing to really have that advantage.
That's great. Well, Kristen, I mean, you have an imperative behind your business as well, right? The lights must stay on. We must be responsive. You have this sort of sense of, we're definitely in it to win it, right? For the good of everybody. And you talked a lot about community. So I imagine that there's that sense of service also that comes forward as a part of your culture. And how do you keep that energy around that? No pun intended. Maybe there was.
Well, having community service hours is actually incentivized. And so, we create events that are during the workday. We do a lot of outreach to some of the local nonprofits. And so you get credits. There's a bank that you can use. So it's all tracked. And so it's really incentivized to take the time for the community as well.
That's
Built
great.
in.
Yeah, it sounds like you all have these benefits. So there's more to coming to work than just coming to work, right? And I think that's also an important kind of statement or draw for individuals when they are reflecting on why am I here and why am I doing what I'm doing. And it's just wonderful to hear you tell your stories about that. So I want to think about, if we could all get out our crystal balls for a second. I know I have trouble seeing through mine sometimes, but if I can wipe away the fog and look into 2024, what's in store for culture in 2024 for your organizations? And maybe more specifically, how specifically do you think HR can help support culture moving forward in 2024? I'll just throw it out to whoever wants to bite.
I'll jump in for our, as we look to 2024, we want to leverage the feedback that we just got from our most recent engagement survey to now take action on that. And then also I foresee for us a great focus on integrations of the culture with our new parent company, Centera. And to go to the second part of your question regarding kind of what could be some must-dos for HR, I think number one is be a champion for culture and foster an understanding with the business that we all own culture. Everybody owns a piece of that pie, and be that voice. Provide opportunities for new hires to experience and embrace the culture, whether in the office or remote. Opportunities for existing employee, because I think, building the culture is great. The other opportunity is sustainability of the culture. How do you sustain that culture with people when they've been here already a little bit of time? And then select, data is really important. So select a provider, engagement survey provider, or whoever you work with, so you can gain an understanding, a very objective understanding from the employees on what matters to them. So then you can go back to the drawing board and really adjust and shift and drop where you need to do it to stay relevant.
I love that thought of being able to bring in the employees' voices in this. So what are some other ways beyond having an actual survey? Do you work to bring in employee voice into what's expected or what's desired in culture? Kristen or Marina, have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think communication is connection. And, we have a lot of two-way dialogue forums for employees. A CEO meets with 37 business units a year. He meets personally with each one of them, hosts quarterly town halls. He has a coffee with series, and that's the executive team. So starts at the top, but filters down. That communication chain is so important, especially as we're coming to the end of the year, looking forward to a new year and growing and rebounding with our stock price, of course. December 31st, 2021, our stock price was $93, and today it's trading at 57. So you know, we've got some work to do, but that sense of optimism comes from the top, and knowing that we can weather that storm, and we will. So communication, I think.
Yeah, communication, definitely. Karina, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. And Kristen, I told you in our pre-meeting, hang in there. We were at, I think 32, and I think I saw today 102 our stock price. So you will weather the storm. Communication, everything Pedro and Kristen have talked about, we really are focused on our people this year, and Propelled by People is a new initiative we've come out with to really focus on our organizational health, attract and retain the best talent, deliver a great employee experience, grow and develop our talent. That was adamant as something we heard significantly from our employees. They really want to develop, from developing themselves in learning more to grow, or to just be better employees in what they do. Not everybody strives to be the next CEO, and really amplify our culture that way. So we've done a lot of listening sessions. We've done a lot with the surveys. So we're very focused heavily on developing our people.
And when you're doing those listening sessions, who's participating in those or leading those? How do they come to life?
I can tell you in ours started with the CEO and then our chief HR officers. And then we have their leadership teams do them as well. They can't always be the ones in the room. So we've had the CFO, we've had his leadership team, and we've done individual departments as well. Not every group has the same needs. So really listening to each group's, what their needs are, where they want to grow, where they want to develop. Then our HR business partners really have the opportunity to shine and get in there, and using the enterprise strategy that we want to do and the resources we have with our centers of excellence. We'll work with those department leaders to amplify their cultures or increase awareness and bring up and developing their people the way their employees are telling us they want to be developed.
That's awesome. And so what happens with the output then? So I imagine that you use what you learn to create those development opportunities, or how do you socialize kind of the results back into the organization?
If that one's for me, I'll take it too. And you guys
Yeah, sure.
can chime in if you want to. But we, like I said, we went through a lot of change, and we have a new chief talent officer as well. That's been wonderful. And we started with kind of bringing it back to the basic and educating our employees on career growth and development is not just you getting a promotion, and it's not on me as your leader. It's heavily on the employee. So we released something called My Career Journey that was focused on educating the opportunities we have at Royal, what you need to do to build a development plan in conjunction with your manager. And it was really on educating what career development is here at Royal, what you need to do and what your manager needs to do. And then next year, we're focused on leadership and managers on what they need to do to help the employees and bringing it to life. So we've started that communication, and we have quarterly all hands meetings where we are talking to the employees at an enterprise level, saying what we're doing based on the feedback from the results that you've said and what our plans are. And they're seeing it in real time when we launch it.
That's amazing. So what has been the response from employees in hearing this confirmation back that you're doing something with what they've said?
It's been very rewarding and positive in the sense that we've talked a lot as an organization and always get so busy with what's happening or a new ship launch that they haven't seen the rewards of their feedback the way they have now. We've also stayed on top of the data. We've stayed on top of the leadership to say, your team wanted this, and now here's the data of who's actually using it. And we've also heard the feedback from others as saying this wasn't exactly what we wanted. So we're also readjusting it. So far, so good. It's been positive, and I think it's given us more credibility as an HR team when they do see these kind of initiatives take place and come to life after we said we were going to do it.
Yeah, I love that. So I'll take a pause real briefly here to just kind of make a shout out to those of you that are listening to our great conversation here. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the Q&A part, and we're going to have some Q&A opportunity here coming up, but I just wanted to kind of make that quick housekeeping announcement. If you have something specific you'd like to ask one of our panelists, And while we're looking for those questions to come in, I would love to hear from each of our panelists. If you had kind of one piece of advice for our audience on how to create a winning culture, what would that be? And
I can chime in. I
All
think
right, cool.
my bottom line is hire the best, don't rush it, and build the best team, build a balanced team. And that kind of talent will bring the best solutions and will not fail you in times of change or winning. You know, they're just, it's all about the talent.
I love that. Yeah. Pedro, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I jump in and say, number one is connect the value of the culture to the bottom line. Because if you build it, they will come. Start at the top and involve people at all levels. You don't have to do it all alone. Establish a mechanism to gather feedback and data. The analytics matter. Incorporate the culture into your people processes. Make it part of the day-to-day. And finally, take time to celebrate. Celebrate what you're about. Celebrate some of the wins, because that's important too, to have a little bit of fun.
I love that too. And Karina, how about you?
I was gonna piggyback off of you, Kristen, because it's so important who you bring in and that you're bringing in the right talent that completely encompasses and embodies your culture. We've seen that really clearly when we brought in people that maybe didn't fit. And it changes the entire dynamic. So that is the best thing that you can do, is just make sure you are hiring appropriately to really ensure you keep your culture.
I love that too. So we have a really cool question from Lauren in our Q&A, and that is, describe your work culture in one word. Anybody want to take a stab at that?
The word family comes to mind. I know it's so cheesy, but it really is a good word to describe it.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I'll jump on that one too. Family and embrace.
That's great. Kristen, you have one word for your work culture?
I'm really struggling with the one word.
How about energetic?
Powerful.
Powerful. I
There you
love it.
go.
I can attest that, yes, that both of those ring true for your work culture. For sure. That's a great question. You know, it's sometimes hard to describe work culture, right? Because it's just a combination of so many things. And I heard the panel say a couple of times that it's, you know, starts at the top, comes from top down. And I think if you traditionally kind of study culture in our field, in our practice, that's a kind of a known entity, that it does start from the top, although everyone has such hand in it. So if you don't have the right, you know, to be trite, tone at the top, it's difficult to kind of describe what your culture is all about. And sometimes I think that's where there is some struggle. So I will throw it out to the panel to comment on how important is it to have culture tone start from the top?
Oh, it's
I
critical.
think it's making sure you have the right person driving the car, basically. I mean, you could all fit in the back seat and the passenger seat, it could be great. But if the person who's driving, you know, you want to go to Orlando and they want to go to Palm Beach, there's going to be disconnects. You know, there's going to be a little bit of, you know, things that need to be ironed out and agreements that need to be had. And, you know, I really think that it's a shared responsibility. You always need a champion, somebody who's going to be kind of the keeper of the flame a little bit. You can think of it that way. And it starts with that. So they're going to look to, you know, how does my CEO interact with me in the hallway? How do they, you know, do they say hello? How do they address, you know, the audience in a town hall? How approachable are they? Are they more like us versus them? Is it a we? All of that, you know, speaks, and it speaks about culture. And when there's disconnects between what I see, what I hear, what I feel, and then what's on a wall or on some sort of paper, that creates, I think that's where engagement doubts, you know, come in. And people are like, well, is this really what we're about? Or it creates a bit of a mixed message. So I think that people at the top being aligned with what it's about is important.
I agree. There can't be an ivory tower. And I do think that they have to lead from the front. But I love the idea of once that's established, once you have cover from your leaders, that it can rise from the ground up as well. So it's sort of like a little ecosystem of trust and empowerment that needs to happen. But I think it must be led from the front.
It feels to me like, this is the moment where HR leaders in particular can be instrumental in helping to describe culture and helping to tell the story throughout the organization, get the message, from the top and help leaders to translate that into something that's meaningful and consumable really for, levels below. And I'm seeing instances of that where, HR teams are really engaging in, what is that conversation and what's our part in helping to kind of stand up our culture and connect to our values. What are your thoughts on, the role of HR in organization culture?
I think number one is not being afraid to ask the questions, and also, asking the questions, probing for the answers, planting seeds, and also creating the environment. I think it's about that. It's not so much it's an HR thing, it's an HR initiative. It's a people initiative.
Right.
Yet HR is behind the scenes, creating the environment for that to happen, for that to flourish, whether it's a survey, whether it's a dialogue, whether it's a coffee with a CEO, whatever that looks like and whatever that feels like and works for the company, that is critical.
I love that. Great.
I agree. HR, I think, are boots on the ground. They are listening to the voice of the customer, and they're able to consolidate and really come up with themes that can really sort of be distributed out to either development opportunities or initiatives. And so they really are sort of the front line for our employees.
So I have a really great question. This is for you specifically, Karina, and that is, it's from Robert. And Robert asks, being that your organization is both land and sea, do the corporate cultures mirror each other?
I think we do our best for it. When you think about the ships, they live on board for a long period of time. So it's very unique in the way they work. But I will say both are very hardworking, corporate and the ships, always doing the right thing. We have the same corporate values. So in that setting, we very much do mirror each other. And we're always, like I said, it started from the beginning, the connection is there. That is our business. Those are our employees. So the majority of all of our departments are working together with the ships at all times. We have 24/7 operations here. And everything we do, I can tell you, our leadership is very much, if we're going to do it for corporate, what does that look like doing the same thing for the ships? So they're very aware of, we should not treat them so different. Even when it comes to recognition, when it comes to development, those programs I mentioned, my career journey and all of those, we're going to launch the same thing on board. So it's very much a very similar culture, and we're aware of that and think about our crew members at all times.
And we had a great comment in here from Rose, and she says, we inspire each other one way or another culturally. So I imagine that there's some inspiration moving back and forth between the two parts of your business as well in that way. Have another question in here. What is one tip you can provide to problem solve between teammates? So
I teach the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team. And before you can get into conflict, there's got to be trust. And we do that through personal connection. Knowing each other has the best intentions is critical. And so that foundation of trust, you need to start there before you even get into feedback and conflict.
I love that.
Yeah, I would add to that, assume a positive intent. listen to understand, not to respond, and approach it with the mindset that you're going to create a win-win, not you're going to win and the other person loses, or they lose and you're going to win.
That. And you know, when we also think about culture and kind of creating that sense of trust, I think the establishment or the articulation of, you know, what are your organization's values, and having that, you know, be something that everybody can relate to and believe in, goes a long way to establishing that trust. And then I think, to your point, Kristen, that trust then is pervasive throughout the organization. You can get on board with, I believe that, you know, my work partner is going to do what they say they're going to do, or that my manager is going to follow through on the commitment, or that, you know, I feel like I can contribute and I'm going to be rewarded or recognized for how I contribute. And all of those small moments put together are what really establish the foundation of your culture. And then it's interesting to hear from employees when they start to describe what it's like to be a part of the organization. That's your evidence for what your culture really is. Yeah. So that's really profound. I'm gonna check to see if we have other questions here. We're having lots of kudos for sharing great tips. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your great tips. I have another question around what is your input on DEI in any organization's culture? Is that something that you are dealing with, putting focus on? Maybe speak to activities that you have going in or philosophies that you have.
Well, I will go. So for my leadership programs, there's always a DEI element. I have the director of DEI come in and speak to leaders on how they can really instill this in their business practices, their leadership practices, through recruiting, through activities, avoiding unconscious bias in hiring and the decisions that they make. So it's in the fabric of being a leader at NextEra FPL.
Right.
It's great. Yeah, I think it's critical. I think it's ensuring that all your people processes care for that, the DE&I piece. I think it's also, from an organization's perspective, look at DEI from the broad lens that it offers, which is it's not just about, you know, Pedro, how he looks or his name, how he pronounces, et cetera. It's much broader than that. There's diversity of thought. There's, you know, what people bring to the table. How do you leverage that as a team? How do you get people to have conversations and better understand each other, et cetera? So having that in your recruiting process and your development, you know, even, you know, in how you're marketing your organization, et cetera, all the people processes, I think, you know, need to be touched by that. And also, I mean, I've seen in the last few years how that has become even more important, right? So from an attracting perspective, or, you know, potential candidates want to look at an organization and see, what do you do in this space? You know, and even to a certain point from a retention perspective. So if positions that you take personally and are tremendously valuable to you are not reflected in your organizations or their values, people may choose to, you know, do something different because of that. So it becomes a delicate dance, yet there's definitely something there that always needs to be cared.
We've got another question that Pedro, I think this goes back to something that you mentioned earlier around integration of you know, another company with yours. And the question is, can you share some ways to ease team members during big transitions, such as bringing a new executive or director, board changes, those kinds of things? Maybe speak to what transition does to culture and how you can help.
Yeah, so critical to all of this is communication, right? So there has to be communicate, especially during change. You want leaders to be out there. You want leaders to be equipped and empowered to carry the message, et cetera. And what you want to do is care for the leading through change and also the navigating through change. So understand what people are going through and help people, put language around what they're going through. So we have done at different points in times, leading through change training and navigating through change training to help everybody understand what that looks like, what that feels like, and then also what we own and what we need to do as part of the change. Change is sometimes scary, sometimes it's exciting. There's the unknown. So to be able to keep a pulse on that and help address the needs of the employees as quickly as possible as it relates to all things change, I think has a positive impact in terms of how they feel about the change, about their own engagement, and even, it can impact somebody's productivity. If I'm worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next week, that's going to take energy away from my commitment to thinking about the future, my day-to-day efforts at work, et cetera.
Right. Great comments. Any other comments on transition and culture from the panel?
Well, for new leaders coming in or taking over a team, we do this very robust leadership assimilation process where the leader, back to story, they tell their story, they connect with their team in a way that isn't necessarily business standard, right? They come in and they say, this is what's important to me, this is who I am. And then they feed back from the team. So it's a really great process, and it's pretty effective in assimilating new people. And it really puts the team at ease. Oh, I know who this person is, and this is what they love about this company, and this is how they fit. And so that's been pretty successful for us.
We do the same thing. It's a new leader assimilation, so they can really get to know the leadership, and the leaders get to know what the employees are saying and what's important to them.
And it's so welcoming, and it speaks to your culture, right?
It's so effective because sometimes from those assimilations, when I've done them in the past, the team walks out with agreements on how they're going to be working together. And so it's kind of like we all kind of put our hands together like, yep, this is good. We're in it. Awesome. And you help then, as the team is growing and the norming, storming, performing, et cetera, you have that to go back to say, how are we doing? How are we doing? Where do we got to tweak a little bit? And where do we need to celebrate the things that we're doing really well?
Yeah. It's that foundation of trust from the very beginning, intentionally, right? Yeah. Love it. I love it. Well, thank you, panel. What a wonderful panel. Can we keep going? We could just keep going, but we've got to do other things. So we will say thank you so much for lending your expertise and your insights today to our topic. At this moment, I think if we didn't get to all the questions, I'm sure somebody will get to those in the Q&A. I see Tammy popping back on, so maybe she's going to say something before we all sign off here. So I'll turn it back to Tammy.
Thank you, Angie, and a round of applause to our wonderful panelists and our crew here at the Chamber. We want to thank the Chamber for all their efforts of putting together this and their diligence. And I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to close us out today. And before I get off this wonderful podium, happy Thanksgiving to you all. And I hope you have a wonderful and blessed holiday season. And look for more things to come from our wonderful committee. Aaron.
So Tammy took most of what I was going to say, but I do have to say, before everybody leaves, a couple of things. Number one, the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce has partnered with FIU for a business survey. It's really very important. The survey is in the link. Please take it. It's your opportunity, your company's opportunity to help shape the future workforce for Miami-Dade County. The links are there. There's also a link on the promotion. And as an incentive, participants will have an opportunity to be in a drawing for a chance to win a 7-day cruise on Royal Caribbean. So I want to thank everybody, and I want to thank Karina's organization for providing that incentive to get the survey participation up. I want to thank all of the people. I want to thank Diana from CareerSource for sponsoring this. Obviously, I want to thank Pedro and Kristen and Karina for participating, and Angie for leading such a fabulous discussion. obviously thank our staff, Stephanie Para and Alicia Thompson here at the Chamber. I think hopefully everybody came to understand, and as you listen, that really a winning work environment means a culture that's in constant flux, involvement, and practice by leadership and employees. As Angie said, we could spend hours talking about it, but really it's part practice what you preach, and preach what you practice, and you'll attract the people you want to work with. And I want to thank Tammy as the head of our HR and professional development committee, and invite you, if you'd like, to join us at our committee meetings as we shape our upcoming webinars for next year. And with that, this is the last one for 2023. Look forward to the ones in 2024, including our live HR Insight panel in April. And with that, like Tammy said, I wish everybody an early happy Thanksgiving, and thank you all for joining us. Thank you, and have a great day.